The chandelier light shimmered against polished marble floors as the most powerful woman in the city adjusted the plain scarf around her shoulders and stepped quietly into her own restaurant. No one recognized her, and that was exactly how she wanted it. Ava Sinclair, billionaire, visionary, founder and CEO of the luxury dining empire Velour Group, was known in business magazines as ruthless, brilliant, untouchable. But tonight, there was no designer gown, no security team, no flashing cameras. Say, just a simple navy dress, minimal makeup, and a reservation under the name Anna Reed. She had come undercover because something wasn't right. Over the past 6 months, customer satisfaction scores at her flagship restaurant, Valora Prime, had been slipping. Janitor's flipping. Anonymous complaints hinted at rude management, missing funds, mistreated staff. Yet whenever Ava questioned her executive team, she was given flawless reports, glowing statistics, polished lies wrapped in spreadsheets. So she decided to see the truth herself. And she was not prepared for what she would hear. The hostess barely looked at her. A reservation? Anna read. Ava replied gently. The young woman scanned the screen with disinterest. Repeat, follow me. Follow. We've observed everything. The slight impatience in tone, the forced smile, the way a waiter rolled his eyes when a couple asked about allergens. This wasn't the culture she had built 15 years ago when she started with a single borrowed kitchen and a dream. Back then, she knew every employee by name. Back then, respect mattered more than revenue. She was seated near the center of the dining floor. The ambiance was beautiful. Warm lighting, elegant piano music, perfectly plated dishes gliding past on silver trays. On the surface, perfection, perfection. But beneath it, tension. She could feel it. Her server, a nervous young man named Matteo, approached. Good evening, he said, voice quiet. Can I start you with sparkling or still water? Still, thank you, Eva said kindly. How long have you worked here? Matteo hesitated, glancing toward the floor manager, a tall, sharp-faced man named Richard Cole. Almost a year. And do you like it? Another hesitation. It's a job. Before he could say more, Richard's voice cut through the air. Matteo, table 7 has been waiting. Table 7 has been waiting. Matteo flinched and hurried off. Ava's fingers tightened around the menu. Fear. She recognized it instantly. As the evening progressed, Ava watched Richard closely. He barked orders. He publicly corrected staff. He sent back dishes, harshly. He laughed loudly with wealthy guests while ignoring others. This wasn't leadership. This was intimidation. Her chest burned, not with anger alone, but with betrayal. She had trusted her executive operations director, Leonard Briggs, to oversee this location. Leonard had praised Richard's strong management style. Strong. This was cruelty disguised as efficiency. Dinner arrived. Flawlessly cooked sea bass, truffle risotto, roasted asparagus. The food was exceptional. Yet the atmosphere was suffocating. Ioana's fear was suffocating. Midway through her meal, Ava noticed something else. Near the hallway leading to restrooms stood an older man in gray janitor uniform, pushing a cleaning cart. His posture was slightly bent, but his eyes were sharp, observant. Unlike others, he wasn't tense. He was watching. Watching everything. Their eyes met briefly. He gave her a subtle nod. Then something happened that changed everything. A glass shattered near the bar. A young waitress named Leela had accidentally dropped a wine bottle. Red liquid spread like spilled blood across the marble. The entire restaurant fell silent. Richard stormed over. Do you have any idea how much that cost? He snapped loudly. I'm sorry, sir, Lila whispered, trembling. It slipped. You're incompetent. Clean it up. And it's coming out of your paycheck. Eva froze. Coming out of her paycheck? That was illegal under company policy. Richard continued humiliating her, voice rising, customers staring. Lila's eyes filled with tears, and then the janitor stepped forward, calmly, steadily. He placed his mop aside and looked directly at Richard. Then he said 3 words. She's my daughter. Silence. The words landed heavier than the shattered glass. Richard blinked. Excuse me? The janitor's voice remained composed. You will not speak to her that way again. The tension in the room thickened. Laura's heart pounded. Richard scoffed. You're a janitor. Stay in your lane. The janitor didn't move. My name, he said evenly, is Thomas Hale. I worked in restaurant management for 25 years before an accident damaged my spine. I took this job because it was honest work, and because this company once stood for dignity. Once, the word struck Ava like a blade. Richard laughed harshly. If you don't like it, you're free to leave. Thomas looked around the room, at the frightened staff, at his daughter, at the silent guests. Then his eyes met once again, and in that glance, something passed between them. Recognition. Not of identity, but of principle. All eyes turned to her. "I'd like to say something," she said calmly. Richard looked irritated. Mum, we'll handle this." "I'm sure you will," she replied, her voice suddenly commanding in a way that felt different, controlled, powerful. She reached into her purse and placed a sleek black card on the table. Richard glanced at it casually, then froze. Color drained from his face, because embossed in silver letters were the words, "Eva Sinclair, founder and CEO of Velora Group." Gasps rippled through the restaurant. Mateo stepped back. Lila's eyes widened. Thomas stared in shock. Richard stammered, "Emma Sinclair, I didn't realize." "That," Ava interrupted softly, "is the problem." Her voice was not loud, but it carried across the entire dining room. "You didn't realize because you treat people differently depending on who you think they are." Richard opened his mouth, but no words came. Ava turned to Lila. "No employee of mine will ever pay for an accident, ever." Tears streamed down Lila's face. Ava faced the staff. "I built this company on respect, on opportunity, on family. If fear has replaced that, then I have failed." Thomas spoke quietly. "It's not too late." Ava looked at him, really looked at him, really looked at him. A man who had once managed restaurants. A man who swallowed pride to support his daughter. A man who refused to let humiliation pass unchecked. She made a decision in that moment. "Richard Cole," she said firmly, "you are terminated effective immediately." The restaurant exhaled. Security was called. Richard was escorted out, protesting. But Ava wasn't finished. She turned to Thomas. "How would you feel," she asked, "about stepping into interim management while we conduct a full internal review?" Thomas blinked in disbelief. Ma'am, you're not just anything," Eva said. "You understand leadership." The staff murmured in agreement. Lila looked at her father with pride. Over the next weeks, Ava worked closely with Thomas. She uncovered falsified reports from Leonard Briggs, who had prioritized profits over people. He, too, was dismissed. Policies were reinforced. Anonymous reporting channels reopened. Staff training restructured. Compensation reviewed. Morale restored. But the biggest change wasn't operational. It was cultural. Thomas led with quiet strength. He listened. He corrected privately. He praised publicly. He treated dishwashers with the same respect as VIP guests, and the results were undeniable. Customer satisfaction soared. Revenue increased. Employee turnover dropped to historic lows. One evening, months later, Ava returned, not undercover this time. The atmosphere felt different, warm, alive, safe. Lila was now floor supervisor. Mateo smiled confidently while greeting guests. And Thomas stood near the entrance, posture still slightly bent, but presence towering. "You saved my company," was said to him quietly. Thomas shook his head. "No, ma'am, you did. You just remembered who you were." Ava smiled. Because that night hadn't just revealed corruption, it reminded her why she started. Leadership isn't about power, it's about responsibility. And sometimes the most important voices don't come from boardrooms. They come from those holding mops. As Ava walked through her restaurant, her real restaurant, she understood something deeply. Respect builds empires. Arrogance destroys them. And dignity is priceless. And it only takes 3 words to remind the world of that truth.